If you're watching this with a child or watching this with a child nearby, or if you're kind of upset by frightening images, please don't continue to watch this. My presentation is very much focusing on the harms being done to women and children by gender identity ideology, and it's absolutely not suitable for children or anybody who is triggered by adult content, adult material. I'll give everybody a couple of seconds. All right, so my name is Alix Aharon. I'm the co-founder of Partners for Ethical Care and the founder of the Gender Mapper Project. I want to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to give my analysis and experience on what is going on in the world of online gender dysphoria. So how does the modern system look? For now, know that every border you cross, every purchase you make, every site you visit, every friend you make, and every site you search is accessible by companies whose reach is unlimited and whose safeguards are not. Most of what I do and what I look at is actually pretty fun. It's looking at puzzles and solving problems, and that's what I like to do. I'd like to look at data and systems. And I've developed a concept of analysis for online gender dysphoria where you can lay it out in such a way that it can be coded and executed electronically. So this means that it's essentially automating the analysis, and this can be done with metadata and metadata relationships. Numbers are constantly thrown at us in relation to gender clinics, and I think that that's a very important thing to focus on is numbers and data and facts. In 2013, we believed that there were less than 10 clinics in the United States. In 2016, there were believed to be 50. Today, as it stands, there are over 300 gender clinics in North America. So it should come as really no surprise to us that the exponential rise in gender clinics is a result of patients. It has its roots in social media. And for example, in 2016, the co-founder of Tumblr joined the board of Planned Parenthood. To anybody who understands Tumblr, hashtags, and metadata, it should have horrified us that a social media network is getting into bed with a healthcare provider. Tumblr is one example of where there are communities and hashtags which are the source of illness, despair, and negatively affect teenage girls. This has prompted them in 2015 to isolate and effectively ban certain hashtags. For example, Thinspiration. Okay, so Thinspiration is a former hashtag which existed on social media, which was causing women to be really distressed about their their physical appearances and actually developing anorexia. So this is a known problem. This is existing, it's there. Girls can go on, click on hashtag Thinspiration, and then they'll be desperately upset about their bodies. Okay, it's known. They've banned these types of hashtags before. So hashtags like this exist online, and now they're being used by gender clinics. So I believe that social media is totally complicit in its advertisement to young, confused women, and it doesn't end there. For years now, there are unbelievable numbers of clinics that are actually targeting insecure young women. And this is really primarily in Western communities. Okay, this exists in Western communities. Children are not, young women in Africa are not thinking that they're born in the wrong body. Okay, so we have to totally reject this notion that this is in any way biological or real, or this is very much caused by social factors. Okay, so with my presentation, I really want to get into the history of gender dysphoria and kind of how we have been tricked into accepting this as a real, as a genuine thing that occurs naturally, because it's really anything but natural. Okay. All right, so this is just a little bit into the history of gender dysphoria, okay? So the first clinic opened in secret in 1969, and this was primarily to see hypergender dysphoric young males. And this was very much something which was affecting young boys, which there was very, very few of these young boys actually even at the time. Then in 1971, there was the creation of GnRH, which is a puberty blocker to treat early kind of puberty from happening. And it was, they said it was to, if a girl was to all of a sudden start going through puberty at 6, socially this wasn't good for her. But, really there's actually no known physical side effects of going through an early puberty. And it remains in use to this day off-label. So all of this has happened incredibly recently with this concept of treating children medically with kind of, puberty blockers and cross-sex hormones. In 2007, Boston Children's Hospital began transitioning young children through its clinics. And their youngest patient was 3 years old, and it really, really started to speed up in the coming years. And I'd link that directly to the data which is available online about gender dysphoria. Okay, so in 2006, Planned Parenthood entered into the mix, and the CEO of Tumblr joined the board of Planned Parenthood and led a massive funding event with the hashtag Planned Parenthood in Tech. From there, they started to offer quote unquote LGBT services. Now, these are not LGBT services, this is hormones, okay? With no therapy, no referrals, and no evaluation. In 2018, abortion rates nationwide had gone down by 18%. So Planned Parenthood really should have been thinking, okay, this looks like, maybe people are not using more contraception, things are, there's no, they should have been happy, about that. And that the nation's #1 provider, they showed absolutely no loss in finance because of this. So with Planned Parenthood and Tumblr, this is like just two very what would seem things which should never meet. Okay, a healthcare provider such as Planned Parenthood getting into bed with a social media network. Okay, it's so strange, so foreign, and it's from the moment it had this bad romance. Okay. And it should come as no surprise that Tumblr has decided to get involved in this. Okay, so Planned Parenthood, and by the way, I'm not singling Planned Parenthood by this. There's 800 clinics in the US that are kind of doing this informed consent model. But Planned Parenthood is the one that has the most reach. Now they have all of these kind of really insane things on their informed consent forms. For example, they call a man a person who makes sperm. I don't really know what that means, but apparently that's a thing now. Now they sort of make all of these kind of strange claims about what necessarily are the benefits and negative side effects of testosterone in women. Now, as you can see here, I don't really know how they can sort of get away with making these claims. So they say that the permanent benefits are including baldness. I don't know how that is a benefit, but apparently it is. And these are some real testimonies that I received from parents as part of doing my research for the gender mapping project. So really we can see there's some very bad things that are going on to young women through the system of gender affirmation. Okay. So there's really what I think is really quite the scandal is there's no real need to investigate really what I think are actually the homophobic motives that a lot of parents of young girls take their children to gender clinics for. If you just speak for a few minutes to a lot of parents, they'll tell you that their child, first of all, thought they were lesbian, received a lot of backlash for this, and then, went to the gender clinic. So I'm not really seeing how they don't make that connection there. Okay, now I managed to hijack quite a few of the gender clinics, Planned Parenthood. They provide sex education through GLSEN. So they have these amazing statistics here about rapid onset gender dysphoria and how it's disproportionately affecting girls. So this is the evidence that is out there about who are the patients that are going to these clinics. So 90.9% of them are female, and they have an average age of 15 and a half. Okay, this was a sample that was done by of 20,000 gender dysphoric youth, so 20,000 young people that thought that they might be trans. This is actually the real statistics behind it, and they're sitting on these statistics and they're actually not doing anything about it. So there's just lots of harms that are directly going on here. Okay, so this is kind of where I want to go into the actual gender map here, because that is the story. I'm not the story, the gender map is the story. Okay, so as I mentioned before, in 2013, there was known to be a handful of clinics throughout the United States, and indeed really throughout the world. And it's not correct to think about this as if this is a global issue that's happening to teenage girls and young people. So what does the map show? So the map shows 800 clinics in the United States, and the purple are pediatric, the red have testimony, and the orange are surgical. Now, this map is available online. I've received a lot of sort of threats about the map, a lot of this, I don't know why, but this information, people don't want it really to be out there. And the Gender Mapping Project has actually called each one of these clinics to confirm what they're doing. So I call up, I tell them that I have a gender dysphoric child and that I want hormones and blockers. And I try to see how far I can actually get down the path of gender affirmation, gender confirmation. So this is the system which is behind this, okay? And if we're going to look at it from a data perspective, okay, you see these are the gender clinics that are in the United States. Then you have a look at Europe, and we can see really where they're concentrated, and also who the patients are. And social media is really playing a very very important part in all of this. And this is just one example of the gender surgeons that are available online, that can be seen by your 12-year-old child, 13-year-old child can be accessing this highly, if anybody's triggered by stuff, please don't watch it. This is highly damaging, highly targeted advertisement that's been done to young children. It's really being sold as the one-stop shop for negative feelings about your body. Now, the thing that I mentioned at the beginning about the hashtags is really important here to kind of understand how children are driven down essentially driven down a rabbit hole. A child might start out taking a look at the hashtag LGBTQ, and then they're only 4 or 5 clicks away from going down this total rabbit hole on TikTok, where they can engage in, they can see, very, very tempting advertisement that actually they can't, I don't believe that any child is even capable of overpowering the amount of this level of, coercion, essentially. So I think that I've reached my 20 minutes. So am I to hand over? Am I to hand over now?
Oh, you can go ahead. If we are not all guests are here yet, so if you need some more time, it's perfect to go ahead.
Yeah, excellent. So great. So I'm actually just going to go back to the map now and show a little bit more information from here. So this map, I'm making it available online. This map can be accessed by anybody. And the reason that I want it to be out there and accessed by anybody is because I want to hold those who are doing harm to account. I think it's very important to always be able to name reality, and also to name, to name those who are doing harm. So very recently, just this week in Arkansas, they actually made this, fantastic claim that there were no gender clinics in Arkansas, and therefore no reason to actually limit puberty blockers. And I was able to take a look at my map and actually confirm that there's several gender clinics in Arkansas that are, deliberately targeting children and youth. And it was a really great success to actually have those treatments banned this week. Okay, so we also have a book that was released yesterday called Desist, Detrans, and Detox, which is essentially a handbook for the parents of teenage girls or teenage boys that have been caught up in this sort of maze, and it's really to help everybody who has been negatively affected by this. The author Maria Keffler and Partners for Ethical Care, we are all people who have been deeply affected by gender identity ideology in one way or another. On our board, we have a detransitioner, a mother, and also an activist. So this is something that which we desperately care about. Okay. So we can also see that with looking at data and with looking at metadata and also with looking at advertisements, it should come really to no surprise to us that that these gender clinics exist in clusters. They're generally clustered in well-to-do kind of areas, this map also has socioeconomic factors into it as well. The more sort of the richer the area, the more gender clinics you have. A lot of people have felt it very very helpful to actually get these stories out there. Most of the time when parents try to tell their stories that they had at gender clinics, people actually don't believe them. People tell them this didn't happen. I don't believe you. So the map actually gives the power, kind of the megaphone to the victims and the megaphone to the people to sort of say, okay, here is a place where you can talk about your experience. Here is a place where you can talk about what has happened to you and what actually went on at the hands of these doctors. And these stories are nothing short of scandalous. Each one is medical negligence. I have one story which I received from a mother in Australia who wrote 200 letters to her daughter's gender surgeon to tell them that her daughter is working in prostitution in order to fund these double mastectomies. And the gender surgeons just told her to stop writing. And I think that's really very, indicative of a very normal, a very normal testimony that I will receive. Yes, so these are sort of, I really encourage anybody to go through these, to go through the Gender Clinic map, to add your experience and to start really telling the truth about what is happening here. Something is obviously very wrong, and it's been wrong for years. And it's you know, being allowed to go on with no controls. There's no kind of board of directors that is overseeing the level of social media grooming that's going on. There's nobody that's overseeing it. At the very most, it's just going to be kind of maybe taken down for offensive content. But the stuff that I found online is really disturbing. I feel like it's actually direct advertisement and pornography to children. So this is, again, like just more information. This particular surgeon here says that there are actually transgender babies. This surgeon said that at 18 months, you can say if a child is actually going to present with gender dysphoria, which is just a wild claim. And again, she says it online. She has on her YouTube channel, she claims that because a child didn't want to have a baby grow on, wanted to open the baby grow to be a dress, that was a quote unquote gender signal or whatever. And it's just total, really total nonsense to anybody who's ever picks up a book or spoken to a child. It's just, it makes absolutely no sense. Okay, so I think that if anybody wants to continue and kind of talk to me or know more about my work, they can go to partnersforethicalcare.com. I have another website, which is transgenderabuse.org. On Twitter, I am the Gender Mapper, where I tell true stories of what happens, of stories about transition and stories. I wanted to get the truth out here about what is happening to young women and who is doing this to young women and why they're doing it to young women. The reason is they're making money off of it. They're making money from young, impressionable and insecure young women, and it has to stop. And it will only stop if we continue to hold them to account and continue to tell them to stop doing this, to stop marketing independent gender clinics to young women. It has to end, and it has to end, and it will end when we make sure that it ends. Thank you very much.